The Nikon Z90, the camera that rumor mills simply refuse to bury. For years, Nikon enthusiasts have been refreshing their browser tabs, scrolling through endless forum threads, and watching every rumor video with hope that this long-awaited mirrorless legend might finally appear. It's been described as the spiritual successor to the iconic Nikon D500, a camera so beloved that it became a symbol of everything Nikon once stood for. Yet, as 2025 draws toward its close, there's still no Z90 on the horizon. Each passing quarter brings new whispers, alleged leaks, and speculative launch dates, but Nikon's silence remains absolute. And perhaps that silence itself is the clearest answer we'll ever get, that the Nikon Z90 may not be coming anytime soon, if at all. So naturally, when Nikon transitioned into the mirrorless era with its Z-series lineup, fans assumed a D500 successor would be right around the corner. Instead, Nikon released the Z50, a capable yet casual APS-C mirrorless camera aimed at beginners and content creators. Then came the ZFC, a retro-styled camera that prioritized aesthetics and accessibility over raw performance. Both were fun, functional cameras, but not the pro-grade APS-C beast fans were craving. That's when speculation began to surge. A true professional DX mirrorless model, many believed, was inevitable. The name changed several times, from Z80 to Nikon Z90, but the dream remained the same. A modern mirrorless D500 built for speed, endurance, and reliability. Unfortunately, as time passed, competitors didn't wait. Canon introduced the EOS R7, an APS-C mirrorless powerhouse that instantly became the go-to option for hybrid shooters. Fujifilm continued to dominate the crop sensor segment with its X-H2S and X-T5, offering performance that rivaled even some full-frame bodies. Meanwhile, Nikon's attention shifted almost entirely toward its full-frame ecosystem. The Z9, Z8, and ZF received major updates and marketing attention, while the DX lineup seemed to fade quietly into the background. For many loyalists, the dream of the Nikon Z90 started feeling less like a pending release and more like an echo of nostalgia. That doesn't mean the rumored specs haven't kept fans' imaginations alive. If insider reports are even halfway accurate, the Nikon Z90 would have been an APS-C powerhouse. Leaks suggested a 33-megapixel sensor powered by Nikon's latest X-Speed processor, capable of 15 to 20 frames per second in burst mode. It was rumored to offer oversampled 4K video up to 60 FPS, Full HD at up to 180 FPS, and in-body image stabilization, a first for a Nikon DX camera. Add to that dual card slots, a 3.2-inch tilting touchscreen, and an autofocus system inherited from the Z9's advanced hybrid AF engine, complete with deep learning subject recognition and tracking. On paper, that sounds like a D500 reborn, perhaps even better. But paper specs and product reality are two very different things. Every year, these details resurface with small variations, and every year Nikon releases something entirely different instead. Another full-frame update, another high-end lens, another retro-inspired body, but never the Z90. Even Nikon's refurbished sales strategy tells its own quiet story. APS-C models and lenses are regularly discounted, suggesting that rather than developing the DX lineup further, Nikon may be winding it down. Still, there's a rational argument for why a Nikon Z90 would make sense. There's a clear gap in Nikon's lineup between the entry-level Z50/ZFC and the professional Z8. For photographers who don't need full frame but still demand high-speed performance, a Z90 could be that perfect middle ground. Wildlife shooters, for instance, would benefit immensely from the 1.5x crop factor, giving them extra reach from telephoto lens without the added weight or cost of full-frame glass. A 400mm lens would effectively behave like a 600mm, and paired with a smaller, lighter body, it could be a dream setup for field photographers. If Nikon could complement this with a few new professional-grade DX telephoto primes, the Z90 could reclaim a segment that's slowly drifting toward Canon and Fuji. However, Nikon's own business strategy paints a very different picture. The company has been open about its focus on profitability and efficiency, and that focus is on full-frame cameras. In its financial briefings and investor statements, Nikon has made it clear that the DX segment no longer represents a growth market. The rise of smartphones has decimated entry-level camera sales, while enthusiasts increasingly gravitate toward full-frame systems that offer better low-light performance and shallow depth of field. This leaves the APS-C category squeezed between two forces: cheap phones below and premium mirrorless bodies above. This presents Nikon with a serious dilemma. To make a Nikon Z90 truly worthwhile, it would have to be powerful, fast, and packed with pro-grade features. But if it's too capable, it risks stealing sales from Nikon's more expensive models like the Z8. Why would Nikon want to produce a cheaper body that could potentially compete with its flagship line? That's the business conundrum. There's also the lens ecosystem issue. Nikon's DX lens lineup for the Z mount remains extremely limited. Most DX users rely on either the standard kit lens or adapted FX glass. Without a healthy selection of native, high-quality, lightweight DX lens, any new pro-level APS-C camera would be at an immediate disadvantage. A body like the Nikon Z90 would demand fast telephoto primes, mid-range zooms, and wide-angle options that don't currently exist in the Z-mount DX family. Releasing a $1,700 APS-C camera without appropriate lens would be like selling a sports car with no tires, powerful in theory, but impractical in real use. And then comes the cost factor. If Nikon were to develop a Z90 with a stacked or partially stacked APS-C sensor, something that could deliver ultra-fast readout speeds and minimal rolling shutter, it would be expensive to manufacture. Using a cheaper BSIC-MOS sensor might keep the price down, but it would compromise on performance, which defeats the purpose of a D500 level successor in the first place. That manufacturing cost versus performance trade-off may be one of the reasons Nikon has hesitated to move forward. Timing hasn't helped either. Nikon officially discontinued the D500 in early 2022, leaving a void in its lineup. In the years since, Canon and Fujifilm have completely taken over the professional APS-C market. If Nikon were to release a Z90 now, it would be entering a highly competitive space rather than pioneering a new one. Instead of being the first and best, it would be playing catch-up, something Nikon has been reluctant to do in recent years. If the Nikon Z90 ever becomes reality, Nikon will have to find a delicate balance between ambition and affordability. Analysts predict a possible price range between $1,500 and $2,000, positioning it above the Z50 and ZFC but safely below the Z8. That might sound reasonable on paper, but it also means the Z90 would be competing directly with the Canon R7 and Fujifilm X-H2, both cameras that already have mature ecosystems and proven performance. To stand out, Nikon would need to offer not just impressive specs, but a clear promise of long-term DX system support. Buyers don't just purchase a camera, they buy into a platform. And right now, Nikon's inconsistent attention to its DX range makes that investment feel risky. So, is the Nikon Z90 ever going to arrive? Right now, all signs point to no. Maybe Nikon will surprise everyone someday with a D500 style revival, a rugged, high-speed DX powerhouse that rekindles its APS-C glory. But for now, the Nikon Z90 remains just that, a persistent rumor, a fading hope, and a nostalgic reminder of an era when Nikon dominated the enthusiast market with tools that inspired confidence and creativity. Until Nikon officially breaks its silence, the Z90 will live on in the hearts of fans, a dream camera frozen in time.